Reusse Unchained, presented by Josh Arnold, Investment Consultants, Mr. Money Talk. If you were a Timberwolves addict and you were looking for a little hit, you may have overdosed last night, Pat.
I consider myself an expert on Minnesota sports since opening day of the Twins' home season in 1961, their first ever game. Although
Yeah.
I can also go back to being 9 years old at a Gopher football game when they defeated Iowa in 1954, when Bob McNamara ran the punt back and they beat Iowa. The first time in my life, I was kneeling behind the end zone, and an Iowa guy brought a kickoff back for a touchdown, and they called it back for clipping. And I heard the big mother of all obscenities for the first time in my life sitting right there.
Wait,
At
which one
nine
is
years,
that? Is that the one that
nine
starts
years
with a
old.
C?
No, that's the one that starts with an M,
Okay.
and involves two words. I didn't even know
Okay.
I was 9. I didn't know you could put those two together until then. Anyway, this was, and you know me, I've been known to be a critical, not go completely over the top. That was one of the greatest performances in the history of Minnesota sports last
Yeah.
night. That
Yeah.
was unbelievable what they did to those guys. It was fair. They turned them into a bunch of whining jackasses. It was amazing.
Jamal Murray was throwing towels and heating packs on the court,
He's got to
and
get suspended. They can't just fine him, do they? They got to suspend him.
it's three things. He threw a towel on
Yes.
one play, then he threw a heating pack. Like, in the middle of play, he's just throwing stuff from the bench
Plus
on
he
the
went
court.
he went up and made the money sign, and he also clapped in their faces a couple of times. What
Yeah.
the
So
hell?
Gobert got fined $100,000 for the money sign. So we know he's
Yeah.
getting fined at least $100,000 plus the throwing things on the court. He's got.
But
I
but
mean, he has to
but
sit
they,
out game 3.
why did the ref looked over there? I guess he couldn't pin it on
He didn't see where it came.
Murray. He didn't know
Correct.
where it came from, huh? But
Yeah.
now that the league knows where it came from, they got video of it. What's their choice?
Yeah, but
I mean,
to the grander point, like what the Wolves did to the Nuggets, it caused them. They broke the Nuggets, and the series isn't over. But it's like when
No,
your
it's
computer
not.
just shuts off, blue screen of death, and doesn't turn back on.
No,
You know?
they just and the same thing happened to them that happened to the Suns. They got beat to every loose ball. This team has been unbelievable getting those secondary rebounds when the ball's bouncing around or the long rebound or it's not only just defense, but it's what they've done after they played defense. They got
Yeah,
the rebound,
yeah.
they got all the loose balls.
And as you tweeted about, and Ant talked about post game unprompted last night, McDaniels points wise has done nothing,
No.
and he's been one of their most important players throughout.
He's a plus 50, and he scored like 6
Yeah.
points. Or
He scored
I know.
5 points, but then also, the whining about the officials drives me crazy. But when he walked off the court, he was so mad when they gave him that fourth foul. He was just chasing the guy, and he never. It was like Denver had done so much whining. They couldn't get away from McDaniels, and the refs were saying, "Well, he can't be this good on defense." So they absolutely called, just screwed him badly on that foul too. But it is. I can't remember an NBA team where it's so much defense rather than the rest of it. That they're who taught him that? Who got him to play defense like this?
Rudy, I know that like the Rudy thing has been a punchline. Oh no, Finch has their ear, but
Finch came here as an offensive. We hired him because he was a creative offensive mind.
I know.
What happened?
But I think, and I'm going off of a lot of what the Dane Moores and the Johnny K, the guys who've been in there, post game for 3 years, 2 years with Rudy Gobert, that there's something about the defensive communication, the culture, your favorite word, that he has instilled. And Chris Finch last night was even asked, like, hey, how did these guys play like this without your best defensive player? and he said it's been 2 years of Rudy it's a bunch of little Rudies running around is what it is.
Yeah, but last year there was no hint of this. Last year there was. I mean, they might have been a little better defensively, but I don't think Rudy was healthy. B, Cat wasn't playing, so you don't know what, they
But
got. But he
don't,
had got
Here's my
Cat
theory.
playing
Here's my
defense.
theory on that. I think Conley, the D'Lo for Conley Nikhil trade,
Yes.
it unlocks so many things. D'Lo openly mocked Rudy for the first year that he was here, and like there's stories now of after the fact, right? That he in the locker room he would be clowning Rudy's hands, and he would be Conley coming in. I think
Yes.
validated Rudy and he put his arm around Rudy like Rudy was having lunch by himself, in the cafeteria. Mike Conley came in and said, "No, this dude knows what he's talking about." And then they get Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who's
Yeah.
probably one of the best on-ball defenders in the league.
They didn't know that though, did they? When they got him,
They
did
didn't
they
know he
know
was
that?
this good. There's no
No,
way.
they had
Yeah.
no idea that he's basically a 2 inch
Nor did
shorter.
Utah.
He's a 2 inch shorter McDaniels. There's times when you're watching from across the room, you don't know if it's him or McDaniels guarding
Yeah.
the guy because their body types are the same. He's 2 inches shorter, but he's phenomenal. It's unbelievable.
So Patrick,
Have we paid him yet? We're gonna have to pay him too.
So Patrick, to go back in time, is this the most and we've seen defenses in sports in this town be good,
Yes.
but is this the most dominant since the 1970s Vikings as far as
Probably
just
in their
suffocating?
sport,
Yes, in their
and
sport, in
and
this town.
and what you're trying to do, and let's face this too, you play 82 games,
Yeah.
and there's going to be nights when
Yes.
we're not going to do this again tonight. Sorry, we're going to
Yeah.
try to win the second half, but we can't play. You can't play this frenetic style. The Vikings, when they were unbelievable, were playing mostly a 14 game schedule there for years. And, every Sunday, Alan Page was Alan Page. He was a monster. And, MVP of the league as a defensive tackle for a team that didn't make the playoffs, right? Didn't they? I don't know.
I don't
Or
think they made
maybe
the
they
playoffs,
did. They
but you're
made the
right.
playoffs. They
He was
were
the first one.
terrible offense. But yeah, so that was phenomenal. But this is a marathon of all time. This is,
Yeah.
it's
What it is, Pat? They literally, like most teams, when you watch the last possession of an NBA game, even the worst defensive teams in the league find a way to draw up. Like they're going to play focused, laser focused defense for that one possession. The Wolves play end of game, last possession defense for 48 minutes every single night.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
incredible.
And Jokic has not turned into a psychopath like his teammates, but they had him. I mean, he did get 16 rebounds last night, but he doesn't like this swarming. I'll tell you, he does not like it
He
because
looks
he's
No,
hurt,
defeated.
and
he
they're
does.
letting Nas. I mean, what's gotten into Nas? All of a sudden, he's a defending fool too. It's banging him and. How important was that to keep that third big man? You thought you,
Yeah.
how much can you pay Nas? Well, he's a bargain to say the least. But and I gotta admit, McDaniel's all the year I was saying, how can you pay a guy that much money when he's standing down there in the corner scoring 6 points and getting 3 rebounds? Now I know why.
Yeah.
Because he could turn Jamal Murray into a psychopath because he's guarding him so much. And when
There
he's
was that
guarding
one
him, and then when
sequence. It was Jaden McDaniels and Nikhil were hounding Jamal Murray. They picked him up full
yes,
court, and he kind of
yes,
gets trapped once he crosses the half court line, and he's flailing and freaking out and mad at the officials. I've watched that clip about
God, he
10
was
times.
nuts.
It wasn't a foul.
It
He was
was,
just in
yeah, and
jail.
then they're over. Then he's over on the sidelines yelling at the announcers. They're playing two different games. They're letting them play a different game. And I wonder if Cat and he came out together as freshmen. They were there for that UK team, so they got to be buddies, right? Him and Cat. I wonder if Cat's smart enough to say, "Hey, you can drive this guy nuts. He's, just like you can drive me nuts, you can drive him nuts. And but it's a phenomenal thing to see the mature cat too, isn't it? Now, I will say they were doing so much whining that during the first half, our guys got back to, I mean, Cat at least was like that a couple of times, and Ant made a couple of baskets and wanted the and one, but I mean, they definitely look like the adults compared to last
Yeah.
night.
My
Man,
favorite
how
whining
did
sequence.
Malone not get thrown out of the game? How did he
Yes,
not
that
get?
that
He
was
didn't
my
even
favorite
get
whining
teed up.
sequence. Because Ant goes up. Ant got fouled and they didn't call
Yeah,
it. So Ant's like whining at the official,
yeah.
and then it's dead ball. So Mike Malone comes charging out onto the court, and Ant sees what's happening, and so he backs off his own argument and starts doing the give him a
Yeah.
tee,
Oh, I
give him a
didn't see
tee.
that. Yeah, well, you got to give a T. That you can't get away with that. What are they? What is wrong with them? I wonder. I was almost thinking. I was wondering. Okay, are they mad? Are the whole officials union mad because they took the T away from Ants, so now they're not going to call any T's, or what? What was going on? I mean, Malone knew he was going to get a technical. He came out there to get a technical, and they didn't give him. How can they not?
Yeah,
He's in the guy's face,
But
screaming at him.
that crew though was fantastic. If you're the Wolves, you loved that crew.
just
Oh
call
yeah,
nothing for 2.5
Yeah,
hours. It's
I mean,
great.
I
yeah.
don't care if Denver gets teams. Just let me do what I do. In the regular season, I think they called a bunch of fouls. I loved that
Okay,
last night. I thought it was great.
okay. Suits yesterday on our thing said, "I figured out the NBA. They let them beat the hell out of each other for 4 or 5 minutes, and nobody blows a whistle, and then they start calling stuff." But last night they never started. They never got to point B. But
Yeah,
and I think the Wolves are smart enough to know that if they're starting to blow the whistle, you can't be as aggressive, but you might as well continue to be as aggressive as you want to be, and if they're not going to blow the whistle. But it's phenomenal, and I Denver looks uh, deader than Phoenix did after 2 games, because Phoenix was at least going home, right? And but who?
yeah.
I mean, they'll show up, they'll try to play, but they might not have Murray. I mean, the league's got to, really. I don't think finding him $100,000 is enough. I don't think he should play.
I think I
When you
agree with
get
you.
over on the bench and start throwing stuff, it's throwing stuff to the point that the referee looks and says, "Where did that come from?" And
Yeah,
then, because their first moment on this telecast said somebody threw it from behind the bench. They thought it was from the stands, but it wasn't. It was him. Uh,
do you
God,
think, Pat, somebody had this on Twitter last night? Was this the second greatest moment in Timberwolves history behind Game 7, Kevin Garnett jumping up on the scores table against the Kings? Was that the second greatest moment last night?
yeah, I would say so, because it got you to the Western Conference Finals and blah blah blah. But I mean, it was a hell of a game too. I mean, last night was a destruction, and but yes, I would say so, because it was. I mean, I was middle of the year. I said these guys are going to be 6 seeds the way they're playing. They can't make any shots, and then to see that was, yeah. I I really have a hard time getting this praiseworthy about anything. It doesn't fit the image, right? But I
Now
was
you got the
absolutely,
Vikings. You're
I
praising
was,
them. You're praising the
I
Wolves.
was absolutely stunned. Last night I was downstairs before the Wolves game started. I was yelling at the television because I had the Twins game, and my Katie yells from upstairs, Are you yelling at me?" I said, "No, I'm yelling pinch hitter for Christian Vasquez." And he let that fatty hit, and he hit a sacrifice fly, and got a run. But yeah, I mean, it was a miraculous day, because I wanted Simeon Woods Richardson sent to Evansville or some damn place. Where did that come from? The
He
last
shoved,
time he
man.
pitched, the last time he pitched, he was god awful. He didn't compete. He didn't go after anybody. He didn't throw his fastball. Somebody got to him. Maybe it's the big. the big booming personality of Pete Mackey got him going or something. I don't know.
You said he needed a strikeout pitch. I think the Seattle Mariners are his strikeout pitch, Pat.
Yeah,
I think that might be it.
I didn't realize how bad a hitting team that is. They got some issues.
Bad.
And Castillo they were also, I mean, we should still be talking to Wolves, but Castillo was, he's got great stuff, but they were going through the stats about second time through the order. He kind of blows up. So anyway, that was a nice win after the previous one. But then, hey, if that kid can be your fifth starter, then you're okay. But are you going to see that again? Or are you going to see the same guy who puked all over the mound the last time he pitched? So,
yeah.
I don't know.
Man, what a time to be alive in Minnesota sports. What a time. We can't.
So what's our official diagnosis on Woody? I mean, Rudy not getting there? Did they just decide?
So apparently he had travel plans lined up, is what it sounds like.
Yeah.
But they were cutting it kind of close,
private?
and it was abnormally windy over the mountains, and so like his flight plans got delayed. So yeah, Judd was ready to tee up all the takes today. I know.
They probably said, okay, if I don't want to make all my plans on how we're going to defend tonight, and have him walk in the door 4 minutes after tip off. So let's just, if they were down 1-0, they might have been a little more urgency to get him out there. But,
yeah. Well, you guys were
the first 5 minutes.
You guys were freaking out a little bit yesterday, but how quickly you forget that 5 weeks ago at Target Center, without Rudy, Cat, and without Naz Reid, the Wolves came within a clanked 3-pointer at the end of sending that game to overtime with Luka Garza playing like 33 minutes. So any iteration of the Timberwolves clearly flusters the Nuggets.
I was thinking we were going to see maybe 4 minutes of Luka yesterday, but
we did.
They don't want Luka. They don't want a big guy out in the corner shooting. Yeah, I know. They don't want a big guy out in the corner shooting threes, though. They want a guy in there taking on the moose. And it's it looked like it was going to be an Aaron Gordon game to start off with. That they got the little lob going. He made a couple of threes. Boy, he where he would fit well with this team, the Timberwolves. He's just burly, tough, muscled guy. But it was a fantastic performance, and I must admit that was terrific.
Yeah, and now we have to wait all week until Friday night. We have to wait till Friday night at Target Center.
What do you think? Now, Rudy had a boy, right?
I'm not sure. Did Rudy have a boy?
I think Rudy had a boy. He should call it Jaden,
Carl Anthony,
Nas, Carl, Michael. You know what he should do? He should name him after Connolly. Shouldn't he? Old teammate with him with the Jazz, came in, turned
Conley Gobert.
That's a good name. It rolls.
That's not a bad name.
Michael Gobert, Michelle. He could give it the French deal.
You know what I'm doing, Patrick?
Michelle, what?
I'm recruiting that kid starting today. If I'm a high school or college, wherever the Goberts are, I'm recruiting.
Can we get that kid some NIL money right now?
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, just a lifetime of it. So,
and I would suppose that he flies back, and if they induced in the morning, he probably thought he was going to get back there if everything went well, and then what the hell? Who needs him? Unbelievable, unbelievable. They, who's having a kind of a hard time with this? Chuck, because Barkley, he wasn't sold on him, and not like Kendrick Perkins was and other guys. And Charles he's sitting there shaking his head yesterday, complaining at halftime that Cat charged on that play.
Yeah.
Well, yes. Who didn't charge? Who didn't run over anybody? It was the only guy that game lacked was Rick Mahorn.
Yeah.
How would you like to see this team against the Bad Boys? Woo. We would have.
Man.
You have fights too.
It would have looked
Jaden
like
would
the
throw
Broad
down.
Street Bullies came back.
Is this one of if they? All right, I'm getting way ahead here, but last question here. if this team continues playing like this and they win the championship, and it's rooted in the level of defense we've seen for the first 6 games, are we talking about one of the greatest defensive teams in NBA history if they pay it off with a championship?
For the era, yes, because the era is, when the bad boys were winning championships, teams shot 3 threes a game. It wasn't a perimeter game. It was an intense physical inside game where every game was played like this. You knocked the crap out of each other. But the other thing about this series, and even is it's bringing back the mid range, and it's de-emphasized the 3 to a great degree. And me personally, I like that. I don't like basketball when it's just a bunch of guys throwing up threes and 42 threes a game or something like that. So
that's the one thing. Like Anthony Edwards has come in this analytical age where most young players are told threes and layups, everything in between is bad, and he has developed this like one of the most nuanced mid-range games in the league. Right, these little turnarounds, these little elbow jumpers. He's not afraid to bank one in from the side too. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah, it is. One last thing, I told you guys, I just got off the phone with Wes Johnson, the head baseball coach at the University of Georgia. They're having a good year. Last year, he was the pitching coach when LSU won the national title, and Paul Skeens, who's the hotshot number 1 overall draft choice, that the Pirates haven't called up yet because they don't want to give him service time. But he's got a 0.99 ERA in the minors, and then he's going to have the number 1 draft choice again this year. But I was asking him about SEC baseball and how does it compare with others, because you know how it is. I mean, it's the powerhouse, but Wes wouldn't just give you a subjective view. Wes gave me an objective view. The average fastball in the SEC is 1.7 miles an hour faster than any other conference in the country.
Wow.
So Wes has still got those the numbers going through his head. So
And the Tommy John rate is how much higher than the other conferences?
He says that he hasn't had. He's worried about arm health. There's that, but Skeens pitched 122 innings at LSU last year. He says, and he wanted to pitch the last game. He said, I tried to protect him, but but anyway, Wes has had a nice run since he got out of here. So
yeah, he's doing okay.
And Whispering Pete's been fine too.
Whispering Pete,
stop doing that. He stopped doing that.
Why did he stop whispering?
He's now being surrounded by players, so you can't see his mouth, because I think you embarrassed him.
Pete. Well, if I did,
Reusse is embarrassing me again.
He used to look like a guy in a porn theater. Talking.
Back room of Shinders, the creaky door.
Huh? Yeah, the foul
how do you know that door's creaky?
Well, I was in the back room of Shinders. I'm not too proud to tell the truth.
Yeah, the Faust, man. That's I used to drive by there. Let's say that, and guys walking down the street like they're walking their dog, and go, whoop.
Yeah,
take the quick right.
The stuffed animal on a leash.
Yes. All right. Well, it was. There are no superlatives you can offer on this team. Last night, single game that are over the top, in my opinion. It was fantastic.
Yeah, there he is, It's Positive Pat
Mr.
here
Positive.
on a Tuesday.
I got a headache, by the way. I'm having a really hard time with this, but it was amazing.
All right, we'll talk to you again this week, Pat. See ya.
Goodbye.
Reusse Unchained, Positive Pat, Unchained.